In this video, we're going to be covering the fastest way to get together a compelling offer and get it selling. Now, if you're a business owner or you're an expert in what you do and you're trying to crack this at the moment, this video is for you. My name is Angela. I'm an offer coach and part of a duo of offer coaches. And what we do is we help people to get offers so good and so compelling that they end up selling themselves. So let's talk offers. I actually recently ran a full-length workshop about this, really getting into the details around the topics I'm going to be talking through in this quick video. And I'll make sure to leave the link of how to access that full-length workshop below this video as well if you want to go and check it out. So I'm going to start off this video with saying that in the majority of cases, most don't actually know that the offer is actually where the problem lies in getting things moving in their business. Quite often we come across challenges, which is pretty much everything that's talking around it. It's to do with positioning, it's to do with standing out. How do I get content that is going to trigger people to pay attention and also take action? How do I get my website converting? How do I get my marketing, my campaigns converting? All of that stuff. And yes, it can absolutely be to do with all of those things. It can be to do with the execution, and it can certainly be to do with the technical skills in regards to executing all that. But one of the things that we found, and this is through years of actually running a marketing agency and trying to get campaigns working for people, is that very often the problem actually lies at a much deeper level. And when it comes to getting the offer compelling and flying off shelves selling, there's really only a single thing that is often standing in the way of getting this going as fast as possible. And that is about getting methodical in the way that you are doing it. I'm going to be going through that process today at a very high level. And again, if you want to go into more detail on it, there's going to be a more in-depth session that you can access. So let's talk firstly about getting the clarity and focus around your offer. And now I want to clarify one thing here. Getting clarity and focus, I'm not talking about niching. I'm not talking about putting you inside a box and becoming like a one-trick pony, the single thing that everybody is going to know you for, and that's going to be the box that you're going to be locked in for the rest of your life, for your business life rather. But what I'm really speaking about here is really maximizing the single most important resource when it comes to actually building this entire thing up, getting your offers out there, building up towards your big dream vision that you want to create over the next 5-10 years. And it's about your energy, preserving your energy and sequencing things in the right order as a step-by-step to make sure that you actually make enough money today to be able to build out that big dream. And by energy here, I'm talking about your personal energy, but I'm also talking about your headspace. I'm talking about your financial resources, and I'm also talking about your audience exposure. You want to make sure that you're not putting out so many things all at once that you're dazzling your target audience and getting them so confused on what it is that you are even about before you have actually created a base to begin growing from. So very often people end up not wanting to choose and to focus because they have all of these different ideas that are swirling in their head. And very often people are starting to think, things like, my business is very different. In my area, you can't actually niche because there are so many different things that I can apply what I do and solve different sorts of problems. There's also very often a lot of fear involved as well. People don't want to focus because they're afraid of actually making the wrong choice. What if I go down a certain road and it's actually the wrong road? But what I'm going to say to you is that the more methodical you are in this process of actually selecting an offer, hypothesizing around it, getting it out there, validating that it's actually something that the market wants, it's actually going to end up saving you time. So if you actually do go down the wrong path, if you do this in the right way, you're very likely going to pick on something that's going to have a very good chance of succeeding. But at least if you are going to figure out that it's the wrong path to go down, there's going to be a way for you to determine very quickly that's going to be the wrong one and be able to adjust the direction, also in accordance with where you want your business to be going long term. And the third one is that many people, they don't really want to exclude. At the moment, perhaps you are already working with a lot of different clients and you're just in a place where you're like, you don't really want to be able to excluding them. But at the same time, when you aren't actually creating that focus around your message, and this is something that we see very often, it's more about your ability to go down into the layers and go deep into your subject and speak to some of the pain points and situations and scenario of your particular audience, rather than staying at that sort of high level surface where you're trying to speak speak to like 10 different people with the same message, or trying to like spread yourself across so you end up sounding rather generic. There are really two areas that you want to be making sure that you're getting very, very clear in this process. The first step, which is all about the clarity and focus. So number one is really, what is your starting point? So where should you actually even begin? You might have all of these ideas, but which one is going to be the most commercially viable path for you to actually start building out, start testing, and start getting money rolling into your business? So that's definitely the first one. And the second area of clarity, once you've got that, is once you have that, it's all about figuring out, what is that actually single burning need? We actually once worked with a breath retraining coach, and she had a big dream of becoming a global educator around breath retraining. But again, this problem of breath retraining, why was that something that was so important to her audience? Why was it something that people needed to be sitting up and paying attention to? And it all started off with actually identifying a single burning need to get that wedge inside that market, to get the attention of people, so that people were starting to open up to be educated about this topic. And that was really where she started to grow from. So now on to the second one. The second one, now this is really the kicker of what is at the root of so many failed marketing campaigns. And we know this from having run our own agency, having run marketing campaigns, and having to keep going back to the beginning to fix some of the foundations that were necessary in order to get the right messaging, the right hooks, and all of that stuff to get the marketing rolling. And that is to do with validating whether or not the thing that you are selling, the hook, the thing that you're putting in front of people, is it actually tasty enough? Is it actually something that is relating to what the market wants and what they need? So again, you have to know what your target client wants. It has to be in the language that they want, what they need, what is it that they are actually looking for. And in order to get to that level of clarity around the language, and to make sure that you are putting something in front of them that they actually really want, and they're going to raise their hand up and say, yes, I need this. This is something that I need in my life. I need you to start with me tomorrow. That requires a single thing, and that is validation. And specifically using a very specific technique that we teach, which is called deep listening. Now, deep listening is essentially a pattern recognition and analysis approach that is basically a very fancy way of talking about super focused listening. So what you're going to be listening out here is all the things that are ways that they're describing their pains, making sure that they are highlighting the things that they are struggling with right now and in their specific language. Very often what we don't realize is we end up talking about future problems because we know so well what is actually going to go wrong if they don't solve the thing, solve and put some of the foundational things in today. But here's the problem: when we start talking about these future problems, very often our clients simply aren't there. They haven't experienced that yet. Again, you've got that foresight because you're the expert and you know what's going to go wrong. But if they haven't experienced that yet, it's something that is simply going to go straight over their head. So it's going to be put in this kind of like, nice to know bucket, but it's largely going to be irrelevant for right now. Now, the third piece is all about systematically implementing and that plan, that systematic plan to actually get all of this stuff out there. Your validation plan, your prospecting plan. What is that systematic approach, and what are the numbers that you need to apply into this process to make sure that you're approaching this entire structure in a very intentional and structured way to make sure that you get to your goals, like how many people you need to be speaking to in order to get a certain number of potential prospects, qualified prospects, to then be converted into ultimate sales. A lot of people, when they get to this phase, they end up feeling quite disheartened because they may not be getting the results as fast as they'd like to see through this process, but very often it's because they are going into this process and approaching it without a clear plan to start with. If you want to get a view of what that plan, that process, that structure is looking like, that is actually something that we go in detail within the in-depth training that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you definitely go and check that out. The goal of this video was to go through how to get to a compelling offer and get it selling as fast as possible. So I've gone through those three areas: getting to that clarity and focus, making sure that you're validating that with your market needs, and thirdly, making sure that you have a structure to bring all of this together and make sure that you are approaching it intentionally and in a methodical way. But the biggest takeaway that I really want you to have coming away from this video is that very often what we believe are marketing challenges are at the root of it something that is happening at at a much deeper level. And I'm hoping that some of the points that I've mentioned in this video are going to help you revisit and have a look at what might be happening in your business, and potentially if it's actually the offer, getting that offer right, that is really at the root of where you want to be focusing on. So if you like this video, make sure that you're hitting the subscribe button so that you're getting notified of future videos that we're going to be releasing around this topic. And also make sure that you're checking out the resources I'm going to be leaving at the bottom of this video. See you in the next one.